what does somebody need to focus on in general to allow themselves to enjoy food this winter and holiday season without feeling guilt and feeling like they've gone completely off the cliff and maybe even lost all the progress they made in the first 11 months of the year?
Yeah. Well, Frank, as you know, my system is a rules-based system. So usually during the regular part of the year, people are trying to follow some simple rules like, like I don't have bread or I only have it on Saturdays or, I always have 16 ounces of a green smoothie in the morning when I wake up or something like that. And the thing that people often do in the holidays is they figure that all bets are off. They're just going to take a vacation from their rules and the discipline. And it's like if they had a food monster inside of them, they have it on a short leash most of the time, and then they just drop the leash on the holidays. And what I found after working with 2,000 clients and talking to all these people is that it works an awful lot better to give your monster a longer leash, but a very specific length leash, than to just let go. There are a couple of reasons for that. We can talk about the science behind it if you want to, but a typical Thanksgiving meal plan might be I'm going to have one main dish and one dessert of my choosing. No matter what my rules are the rest of the year, that's what I'm going to do. The only exception to that would be if you're someone who can't have sugar, flour, or alcohol because you're just too addicted, then, none is a lot easier than some. But most people can manage it. And so if you think of a very specific set of boundaries and you plan it out and write it down beforehand, then your brain is really a lot more able to deal with that than the all bets are off kind of thing, even though theoretically you wouldn't do quite as much damage if it's just once a year or twice a year. Um, what happens is it's the difference between who's in control. Are you in control or is your food monster in control? And when you're in control, you're making decisions based on your intellect about these important food choices. When the food monster is in control, you're allowing whim and emotion and impulse to take over. And it has an impact on other addictions also. When you maintain a kind of a disciplined life with food, even if it's a discipline with 5,000 calories or whatever the indulgence is going to be, if you maintain that disciplined life, then you're more likely to maintain a disciplined life across all the other disciplines you're trying to implement. Porn, gambling, whatever you're having to struggle with. And so I recommend, I usually ask people, what would you like to do on Thanksgiving? Think of yourself waking up the day after or in the Monday after. What would make you feel proud that you did over the course of the weekend? And most people will come up with something reasonable. Like they don't really want to feel horribly stuffed after Thanksgiving and wake up feeling 3 pounds heavier and have to fight for 2 weeks to get it off. But they do want to have some of the things that their family made, and they do want to try this or try that. Another plan might be I can have 2 bites of any meal that I want to, right? But just anything that has a very specific boundary tends to work a lot better than a free for all. And like Jim Rohn said, a life of discipline is better than a life of regret. And Peter McWilliams said you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything you want. So just make a couple of decisions. It's so much easier. And there are scientific reasons why this works better too. But that's the practical tip that I would give for people on the holidays.
How do you assist people or maybe advise people to handle the social stigmatization that can come with some of this, right? Obviously, if people are consulting with you, if they're hiring you, if they're listening to the podcast, they see life through a growth-centric lens. They're trying to improve. They're trying to become a better version of themselves. That's a small percentage of the population. You and I both know that, right? Most people are going to hear that, oh, you have rules on how you're going to eat over the holidays. Come on, it's just one day out of the year. Just live a little bit, right? It's not going to hurt anybody. Just have the extra dessert. Just have, a couple drinks here. What is it really going to harm? So especially when you're around people that are family and people that are within your close circle, this can be hard to kind of manage psychologically, emotionally. So what are some tips in terms of managing the social stigma that can come with this approach?
that's a 50-cent question for sure. May I have 3.5 minutes to answer that? Because I need to give you a little background of psychology of groups and social gatherings. Okay. Um, so the psychology of groups and social gatherings is very powerful. And it comes from a time when it was kind of dangerous to be alone. We relied on the tribe for survival. And fairly often there was not all this variety of things to eat and all these things we can indulge in. There were probably periods of starvation. And then when the group caught something or had a harvest, there was one thing to eat. And if you didn't eat it, if you refused to eat it because, oh, well, I just feel like lobster tonight, I don't really want to have that. If you refuse to have it, then you might get sickly or die or put the tribe at risk because everybody's labor was probably required. So I think that on one level, there's a very primitive desire that says that the fabric of our society requires that we all eat what's available and that we break bread together. You think about two warring tribes coming together to have a meal. They're proving that they're not going to poison each other. They're proving that there's no danger. So there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of social pressure to eat what you want to eat, what everybody else is eating. What above and beyond the guilt that other people feel if you're not eating like they're eating, right? But then if you understand the mechanisms that tribes use to cohere together like that, and you look at group psychology a little bit, there are some practical techniques you can use. One in particular that I try to have all of my people have the variation. It's called the alternative love technique, and you'll see why that works in a minute. Um, there's a difference between what psychologists call a group and an aggregate. An aggregate is like a bunch of people in the elevator. You walk into the elevator, nobody looks at each other. People kind of automatically assume a spot equidistant from another, like how much distance can I get from everybody else? We sit and stare at the wall ahead. There's no interaction, right? That's an aggregate. There's no shared moral values for how we're going to live together. There's no code of conduct for how we interact. It's a very brief gathering with no real social bond. A group, on the other hand, is what you would find if the elevator got stuck and 3 hours later the repairman opened it. You would see people probably took off their jackets. Some of them were sitting on the floor, probably letting their arms touch. Maybe someone had a deck of cards. Maybe they developed a little song that they sing if someone has to go to the bathroom, to kind of discourage them from going in the elevator. Maybe there was a rule about how often they can press the call button. What do you do when someone starts to panic? And there are all these tribal things that they develop so they can function as a group together. You could crystallize the difference between these two by thinking about what would happen if, as you were getting off the elevator, you said, hey, how about next year we get together again, same spot, same time? Right? If you said that to the people after they were stuck for 3 hours, that would make sense. And probably a bunch of the people might want to do that. They've been through an ordeal together. They formed a little tribe. If I just said when I got to the 12th floor, it's been great, let's get together here again in exactly 1 year, people would look at me like I'm a nut, right? That's the difference between a group and an aggregate. Okay, so now your family is the ultimate group. Your family is the group that you rely upon the most. There's the most coherent, there's the most time and history spent in identifying codes of conduct and bringing it all together. But it still turns out that the quality of groupness is ephemeral. It starts to fade over time. So, for example, if I did get back together with those people in the elevator in a year, we wouldn't feel quite as bonded when we first saw each other. We might have to kind of re-engage in some traditions, like we might need to call back, the song that we sing to stop Kathy from going to the bathroom. Right? We might need to say, remember that card game that we played. There has to be some memory and bonding to bring that groupness together. This is true even of the family. Okay, so now you can look at social pressure to overeat in a different context. When I walk into Thanksgiving and my mom comes running up to me with a piece of chocolate pie and she says, here, it's your favorite, I made it just for you. Well, if I say, "Oh, mom, I'm not supposed to have chocolate. My triglycerides are high, and it's not really good for you." I've done a couple of things. First of all, I made her feel guilty about wanting to have chocolate. Secondly, what she was trying to do was reestablish the group norm. This is what we do on Thanksgiving. We eat chocolate pie together. We this is the Livingston family. This is what we do. And so now I'm threatening in her mind, unconsciously. People don't think about this consciously, but at a very primitive level, I'm threatening the fabric of our family. I'm threatening the bond. And she's just trying to reestablish that groupness. So what you want to do instead is give her another way to love you. Like, this is the best way she knows how, is to focus on food, and most families do this. But you could say, "You know what, mom, I'm really cold. The air conditioning is up a little bit high and it was cold in the car. Do you happen to have a sweater I could borrow?" "Oh, honey, of course. Let me go get you Michael's sweater. You can wear it." It could even be a request for information. "I couldn't get a good internet connection in the car and I need to know the score of the game. Is Michael here? Does he know what's going on?" "Oh, honey, sure. Let me take you to his room." "Or can I have a cup of tea? My stomach's a little upset. Could I have a little mint tea?" "Absolutely, honey, I can do that." Give her another way to love you back into the tribe. And if you think about, this is what all that pressure is about. These people are trying to reestablish the tribe, and they're trying to love you. It's usually not a, pernicious, evil attempt to get you to break your diet and make you be a great big fat person the rest of your life. It's usually that they're just trying to love you. And go prepare. Think this through before you go in. What avenue can you give them to offer you that love gift, and then how grateful can you be so that they feel fine about it. And you'll find the whole conversation to sidestep. You don't really have to deal with the social pressure. So I hope that answers your question. That's the best technique we've come up with for managing that.